September 21st, we're getting Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois for the IBF title. Now, last time both of these men went out, they put on impressive performances. We saw Anthony Joshua go out there and absolutely smoke Francis Ngannou. I mean, he hit him with a shot, man. This was one of the more impressive and vicious knockouts that we've seen in a long time. Daniel Dubois, last time he was out there, went out and pulled out the upset against Filip Hrgović. Hrgović was the one that everybody expected to win the get the shot for the IBF after he beat Dubois, because everybody figured that Usyk was going to get stripped, right? We all know that Usyk is undisputed. We all know that Usyk is the man in the division, but we also know how hard it is to hold all these belts together.
Hi everybody, people. Anthony and Daniel, listen. I know IBF title important to you. Tell it my present to you on September 21.
So the IBF comes around and mandates, hey, this is the guy that you got to fight. Obviously, Usyk isn't going to make that fight. We all know that Usyk is going to get the rematch against Tyson Fury in December, right? For two reasons. One, that's got to be the biggest payday out there. That fight has got to be a bigger payday than anything else that he would take. And number two, it's bigger for his legacy than anything else. There's like zero motivation for him to take anything other than that fight. So the boxing organizations do what they do, and lo and behold, we get Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Now, I'm not mad at this fight. It's not like I wanted Usyk to make the defense. This is going to be a good one, man. This is going to be a very good fight. But before I break down all of the details, before I get down into all the ins and outs and how this is going to go, this is just kind of a first thoughts video. I went back, watched a few fights, watched a few of the films, but also it was just, like I said, just not the super in-depth one that I'm going to get as the fights gets closer. But I'm going to tell you right now, my first thought on this thing is that Daniel Dubois gets hit way too much. Way too much. I mean, we've seen all of the shots that he gets caught. What about the right hands that he gets caught with between Joe Joyce and Hrgović in his last fight? Just those two fights alone. Think about all those shots he gets caught with. Now you think about Anthony Joshua. Guy who's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer reach, definitely hits harder, stronger. I mean, Dubois got good offense, man. Good offense. That's how he's able to win those fights. I love the way he goes to the body. When he gets his jab off and he gets it working, love the way that looks. Love the way he follows up with the right hand. Big puncher in his own right. He comes out and he'll be on his toes and he'll bounce around a little bit, gets underneath some shots a little bit here and there. He'll lead a little bit. He'll throw some counters. There's a lot of good things to like about his offense. And that's why the people who are making this a 50-50 fight, that's really what they're basing it on. They're basing it on the offense that he's got. And they're basing it on the fact that maybe Anthony Joshua isn't what he used to be. Now, I'm not necessarily in that camp. I think the biggest person making that argument right now would probably be Carl Froch. You can go check out his YouTube channel, Froch on Fighting, where he talks consistently about the fact that he doesn't think that, or he thinks that ever since Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz, he hasn't been the same fighter, right? And has to be a mental thing. If that's really what you believe, you'd have to believe that, hey, this guy went out there, he got defeated, he had never been knocked out like that before, and something just kind of changed. Something just kind of shifted, and now he's just not quite the same guy that he used to be. Then there's the other camp is there are a lot of people who felt like that after that Andy Ruiz fight, right? But then he went out there and he kind of built up. He redeemed himself. He loses with Alexander Usyk and things like that. But he switches trainers. These last two fights, we saw him with a different trainer, right? We saw him in there with Ben Davison. We saw him against Otto Wallin. We saw him against Francis Ngannou. In both of those fights, we saw something different than we saw, for instance, when he switched up originally and he was with Derrick James. Derrick James had him boxing from the outside, working that jab to death. We saw him in there these last two fights. We saw an aggressive Anthony Joshua. We saw an Anthony Joshua who wanted to get after it. We saw him unloading that right hand. And he's a devastating puncher, and he's athletic, and he's strong, and he's big, and he can do all of those things, man. But there's been press conferences for this fight, or a press conference and then an interview. And both of those things, what I noticed is both of these men are trying to intimidate each other. Both of these men are trying to let the other one know, I won't be intimidated. I'm the big dog here. I'm the guy who's showing up. You're the B-side. You're second fiddle. Everybody may think you're the guy. Everybody may think you're going to win, but really it's me. That's what both of these men, that's the energy that both of them have. That's the message that both of them are trying to convey in this press conference. Then we go over to this little one-on-one interview, and we see it end up.
Don't disrespect
No, you can't intimidate me.
Don't disrespect
You can't intimidate me.
Don't disrespect
You can't intimidate me.
Daniel, don't
Who do you
disrespect
think you are?
Daniel, don't disrespect me. Can't put this.
So we got both of these guys believing this. We got both of these guys wanting to portray this image to the other guy, right, to try to gain that mental advantage. But here's my thought. Here's kind of the X factor, or the wild card in this fight, right? I talked about their skill set, and I said that Dubois gets hit with way too many right hands to beat Anthony Joshua. But what if Dubois goes out there and catches Anthony Joshua with a big right hand? What if he hurts him? What if he staggers him? What if he drops him? What's going to happen then? What if Anthony Joshua doesn't have the mental fortitude to make it through that? What if he gets hit like that and he starts to remember those losses? What if he gets hit like that and he gets on the back foot a little bit? Because I'll tell you what, man, Anthony Joshua on the back foot is not the same as Anthony Joshua on the front foot. Trying to be aggressive, using big shots and pushing Daniel Dubois back and hitting him with shots that he can be hit with is not the same as letting dude get his offense off and trying to counter him. So if there's any quit in Anthony Joshua, if there's any way that this dude is going to get caught and lay it down, that's going to be a bad one because I think Dubois will catch him. I think Dubois will hit him. And he hits hard, he's fast, he's got a big right hand. Like all of those things happen. But if this is the Anthony Joshua that we've seen consistently, I'll say, that we've seen more often than not, a guy who's going to go out there and he's got that fire and he wants to get after it, and he wants to win and he wants to prove something, I think this is his fight to win. Now, I'm not saying that like he's going to go out there and just completely dominate. Dubois is going to have no success. He won't see it. Not by any stretch of the imagination. There's a reason a lot of people are giving this a 50-50 fight. I wouldn't quite make it 50-50. I'm going to give the edge to Joshua, and I'm going to give it to that because of the lack of defensive awareness, the lack of defensive, the layers and everything. Dubois doesn't have that, and that's what he needs to be at the absolute top level. Look, I hate to say it because the guy's only 26 years old, but Dubois may be a gatekeeper, man, right? He may be a gatekeeper in the sense that when you look at the three guys who are at the top of the division right now, if we're talking Alexander Usyk at the very peak, and then we're talking about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, I don't think Dubois beats any of those guys. And when we're talking about those guys are all significantly older, they're all going to retire before Dubois. 100% that's true. But the man's got to worry about somebody who's younger than him coming up underneath him, Jared Anderson. So I don't know if Dubois has what it takes to really ever truly be the top of the pecking order, right? The top of the food chain, the creme de la creme of the division. I don't know, man. Like I said, he gets hit way too much. And when you're in heavyweight, it doesn't take many shots at all. And all of a sudden, the entire fight can just change in the blink of an eye. So, let me know what you guys think. Am I overlooking what he brings to the table? Is his offense going to be enough? Does the little defensive movements that he does use, does that matter? Will he be able to get in Joshua's head? Is Joshua not really who he claims to be? Or not really who the media claims him to be? Right? Are these victories that he's gotten over Otto and Francis Ngannou, do they look more impressive than they really are? But once he steps in there against the guy who's not going to back down, against the guy who's going to bring him a fight and be aggressive, which is what we expect from Dubois, at that point, is everything going to change and it will look different? Let me know what you guys think.